Todd Young Online presents Young Tales. Tales for the young and the young at heart. Today's story: Bulfinch's mythology, the Mabinogion. Branwen, the daughter of Llyr. Long ago, when the island of the mighty was still young and kings ruled by valor and oath, there reigned a giant among men. Branwen, the son of Llyr, Lord of Britain. His court was held at Harlech, high above the western sea, and beside him sat his noble brothers, Widen the wise, and the twin sons of his mother, Nisian and Evanisian, the one a peacemaker, the other born for strife. And one afternoon, as they sat upon the sea rocks, watching the white gulls wheel above the waves, they beheld a wonder. 13 ships came sailing from the south of Ireland, their satin banners bright upon the wind. "Behold," said Branwen, "ships coming swiftly toward the land. Go, men of the court, and learn of their intent." And when the messengers returned, they brought strange tidings. "Lord, Matholwch, king of Ireland, is upon those ships," said one. "He seeks not war, but friendship, and a boon, the hand of Branwen, thy sister, that the island of the mighty may be leagued with Ireland." "Then let him come ashore," Branwen said, "and we shall take counsel, for never has peace come to these islands that was not bought dearly." And so the Irish king was welcomed to Harlech. There was feasting beneath the bright tents, for no hall could contain the giant king of Britain. By the next day's dawn, the marriage was made. Branwen, daughter of Llyr, fairest lady of the isle, had become queen of Ireland. There was joy in both courts, and none could foresee the sorrow that would follow. But among the guests was Evanisian, the quarrelsome brother, the storm that walks among men. As he passed the fields, he saw Matholwch's horses grazing, fine beasts of war and beauty. "Whose are those horses?" he asked. "They belong to Matholwch, king of Ireland, who has married thy sister," said one. At that, his face darkened. He was furious. "What? My sister wedded and I not asked? They could have done me no greater insult." Then in his wrath, he rushed among the horses and shamed them all, cutting off their ears, their lips, and their tails. Never was there an outrage more foul at a royal wedding. When word reached Matholwch, his heart grew cold. "I have been dishonored," he said, "and mocked by those who call me ally." He made ready to leave without farewell, but when Branwen learned of it, he sent after him with gifts and atonement. "Tell the king he shall have a sound horse for every one that was injured, a staff of silver that the length of himself, and a plate of gold as broad as his face. Let him know this wrong was done against my will, though the doer is my brother, and I may not slay him." Matholwch, seeing the gifts, accepted peace, and as pledge of friendship, Branwen gave him a cauldron of rebirth, which could restore the slain to life, though speechless forever after. And thus was peace sealed again, though the seeds of ruin were already sown. In Ireland, Branwen was beloved of all. She gave rings and jewels to every noble lady, and her fame grew greater each day. In time, she bore a son, and they named him Gwern, and he was fair and strong. But envy and resentment lingered among the Irish lords, who murmured that their king had been shamed by his Welsh kin and had accepted payment too small for the insult. So they whispered poison in Matholwch's ear until he turned cold to his wife. They sent Branwen from the king's chamber, forcing her to cook in the kitchens, beaten daily by the butcher after the meat was carved. And they forbade all ships to sail for Wales, that her suffering might never be known. 3 years she endured this torment, until at last she found a way. She caught a starling and tamed it in secret, hiding it beneath her kneading trough. She taught it to speak her brother's name and tied a letter to its wing, telling of her woe and shame. Then she released it to the wind. The bird flew over sea and mountain until it came to Caer Sion in Arven, where Brindagid Vran sat in council. It alighted on his shoulder, ruffling its feathers so that the letter was seen. When he read it, his heart broke with grief, and he called all the princes of Britain to war. He gathered 74 of his greatest chiefs, leaving 7 princes behind to rule in his absence, and sailed for Ireland. The swineherds of Matholwch, seeing his coming, ran to their king in terror. "Lord, a wood rises from the sea, a forest of masts, and beside it moves a mountain," a swineherd cried. "A mountain that walks." "That is no mountain," said Branwen. Hearing him. Wait, what? Wait, I'm sorry. Matholwch said, "That is no mountain." Hearing them speak, "It is my brother Brandegir." Oh, wait. No, wait. That is no mountain, said Branwen, hearing them speak. "It is my brother Brandegrid Vran. The wood are his ships, and he himself strides through the shallow sea." In fear, the Irish made counsel. They said, "Let the kingdom be given to Gwern, son of Branwen, as reparation. Thus shall peace be made." Matholwch agreed, and they built a great house to host the feast of reconciliation. The men of Ireland sat on one side of the hall, and the men of Britain on the other. Between them sat Branwen and her child. All seemed healed until Evanisian, the bringer of ruin, rose from his seat. "Why does my nephew not come to me? Though he were not king of Ireland, yet I would gladly hold the boy." And the innocent child went to him. Evanisian lifted him in his arms, and before any could move, he cast the boy into the blazing fire. When Branwen saw her son burn, she would have leapt into the fire herself, but Brandegid Vran held her fast beneath his shield. Then the hall erupted into chaos, swords drawn, horns blaring. The Irish threw their dead into the cauldron of rebirth, and each arose whole again, though speechless. And when Evanisian saw what he had wrought, his soul was struck with remorse. He crept among the fallen Irish, feigning death, and 2 came and tossed him into the cauldron as well. There he stretched himself wide, bursting the cauldron and breaking his own heart. And so ended the strife he had begun. The war raged till both hosts were destroyed. Only 7 men of Britain survived. Among them, Pryderi, Menawyddan, and Taliesin, the bard. Brandegid Vran was wounded in the foot by a poisoned dart, and his end drew near. "Take my head," said he, "and bear it unto London. Bury it at the White Mount facing France, and so long as it lies there, no foe shall invade this island." So they cut off his hand, and they cut off his head, and Branwen went with them, the 8th among the 7. When they landed upon the shores of Wales, Branwen looked back toward Ireland and saw smoke rising over the sea. "Alas," she said, "2 islands destroyed because of me." And her heart broke within her. They buried her upon the banks of Allah in a 4-sided grave, and there she rests still. Branwen furched Llyr, the sorrow of 2 realms. The 7 journeyed on to London and buried the head of their lord in the White Mount, as he had commanded. And while it rested there, no enemy set foot upon Britain's soil. But in later days, when Arthur became king, he said proudly, "The land shall stand by my strength alone." And he had the head disinterred. And from that hour, say the bards, the island was never wholly free from war. So ends the tale. So ends the second branch of the Mabinogion, the tale of Branwen, daughter of Llyr, and of her brother Bran the Blessed, whose head became the guardian of Britain. It is a story of pride and peace betrayed, of the love that unites and the vengeance that destroys. And though their kingdoms are dust, their names are still spoken in the wind that crosses the sea, where two islands mourn each other still. And there's where we end for today. Young Tales is produced and narrated by Todd Young from ToddYoungONLINE. If you enjoyed this, please like and subscribe and join us next time for another story. Thank you for your support.